Welcome everybody back to Chamber Chatter, hosted by the Saline Area Chamber of Commerce. This is John Trapolsky, Executive Director, and this is episode 3 of our podcast. And we have a very special guest with us, as always. But I'd like to welcome co-founder and chairman of Imagine Theater, Paul Glantz, as well as GM of Imagine Theater, Saline, Paul Rutter. Welcome, guys.
Thanks, John. It's great to be with you.
Absolutely. Thank you for actually making the drive. I know you don't live in Saline, so you obviously got on the road a little bit today to come see us.
Happy to do it. I'm always delighted to come out to Saline, and it's a beautiful day for a drive, so glad to be here.
And last night, the Chamber actually had a fantastic event here, so we're literally in the lobby right now of Imagine. We had our event, so Chamber Chatter 2. Not Chamber Chatter, Chamber of Commerce. What actually did we call it? Chamber 2.0 is what it was. Really exciting event. We launched a couple different programs that we have. You guys were gracious enough to let us take over one of the theaters. Had a great turnout. Paul, I know you and your team, I should say Paul Rutter, you and your team did a fantastic job of hosting us. What do you guys think about last night? Like, how did everything go on your perception of the Chamber's event?
Oh, it was our pleasure to host it. It was great time. Saw a lot of familiar faces, and our team was delighted to host the event. We had a great time, and it was fun seeing everybody.
Awesome. And again, thank you guys for having us. Let's dive into a couple things that a lot of people may not know. So, Paul Glantz now, if you want to give us a little backstory about Imagine. How did you get into this? What was really the thoughts of, opening up a theater? Like, how do you get into something like that?
It started going back to the very late 1980s, and I had a partner at the time, and he and I were a couple young CPAs. We were convinced we knew everything there was to know about business. There was only one minor problem. We didn't have two nickels rubbed together. So we looked at a lot of opportunities, business opportunities to acquire family restaurants, auto repair facilities, restaurants, dry cleaners, you name it. And we found a one-screen movie theater on Clarkston. And it was a fascinating opportunity. The folks that were selling the theater wanted to monetize the Clarkston in order to expand their then Fenton cinema. And it was a great opportunity for us because we were able to acquire the business using $50,000 we borrowed on our credit cards and $75,000 we borrowed from the bank. And so I've never been highly averse to leverage. And leverage is only a problem when you don't have positive cash flow.
Right.
I've been in that situation before. It's quite uncomfortable. But I've been very fortunate to have made it through some of those challenging times. So the history of Imagine and its predecessor actually goes back to 1989. The first movie we showed was Roadhouse, and which is like a classic on television these days, right? And so it's been a good trip since then. We operated the Clarkston through 1997, and that year we opened Cinema Hollywood up in Birch Run, and it's now known as Imagine Birch Run. But Cinema Hollywood opened as a 6-screen theater, and then in the fall of 1999 we expanded it to 10 screens. And we decided, hey, that we're having fun. Why not make this a real thing? We entered the Metropolitan Detroit market with the opening of Imagine Novi in 2002, Imagine Canton in 2004, and it's kind of spiraled from there. And what most people don't realize, but Imagine was really my hobby for many years. It wasn't my true vocation. I was an executive in the insurance business. Well, now it's my day job. So my avocation has turned into my vocation at this point in time, and it's been a terrific run.
And really that. So obviously we're here in Saline. How many theaters do you guys have now in total?
We have 19 Imagine branded theaters, which includes 11 that I'm responsible for, 9 in Michigan, 1 in Wisconsin, 1 in Frankfort, Illinois, and then we have 8 Imagine branded theaters in Minnesota that we manage on behalf of my friend and partner John Goldstein, who bought a chain of theaters in Minnesota and has been refurbishing them and making them beautiful just like our theaters.
Excellent. And the one here in Saline, which number was this in the track of expansion?
Let's see, we've done 2 cents. So of the 11 that I'm responsible for, this would have been number 9.
Excellent. And again, you guys have a great staff here. That I would say Paul Rutter here, keeps this place in, fantastic shape. Again, very welcoming for us, for the Chamber. It's always great to have good partners, in the community. And when we're planning events and looking at different opportunities of doing stuff, we kind of dubbed it, hey, imagine what we can do with a great venue, which is kind of how we ended up here.
We're really just thrilled to be here, and Paul and his colleagues do an exceptional job of operating this venue. And I'm prone to say that it's one thing to build a beautiful venue, but that's merely the price of admission. Then it's a matter of execution. It's a matter of demonstrating hospitality. It's a matter of welcoming our guests and making sure they have an exemplary entertainment experience. Because you could have the finest facility in the world, but if you're not treating your guests properly, if you're not cleaning it well, if our teammates aren't smiling, saying thank you, and proving to be empathetic toward the needs of our guests, then honestly, this would not be nearly as successful as it is today because of Paul and the outstanding job that he and his team do.
Absolutely. And really, so Saline being a little bit later in the chain, it sounds like, of expansion, what's next for you guys? Where do you see the Imagine brand building further?
Well, we always have what I call a funnel, which is theaters that are in the pre-development stage, and we've got about 3 or 4 right now that we're contemplating. And you never know what's going to sort of fall to the bottom of the funnel. That's why we've got several in the hopper at any one point in time. You know, the truth is the United States is pretty well screened overall, generally. So it becomes a question of finding unfulfilled or markets where there's a real void. And again, there aren't thousands of them, so we have to pick our locations very carefully. But one of the things that has been guiding us lately, and Saline really helped reinforce this, is that if we build in a community that isn't necessarily a highly suburban or urban area, we think we can do well because folks that live in outlying areas will drive farther to come patronize you. In fact, that's really the story of our theater in Birch Run. You know, Birch Run only has a population itself of about 8,000 people, yet we served over 425,000 guests last year. And it's a story of people driving farther because we've created a great entertainment experience for them. And I think that when you put something that's really nice in a community, I think folks want to reward the business owners and to thank them by patronizing the business.
And if you didn't have Imagine, let's say, what else would you want to be doing? I put you on the spot on that one.
Yeah, I'm afraid it's stumped the Paul
Besides
Lance.
deep sea fishing and limiting
Paul
to
Lance. You know, I could only read the Wall Street Journal for a couple hours a day, right? And you know, I probably would get more exercise, which would be a positive thing in my lifestyle. But honestly, I'm what you would characterize as a student of commerce. I literally enjoy business because I find it to be an intellectual challenge. And the other thing is that I think that I'm prone to want to serve others because I think that all success in business is born out of serving others. When you put the interests of others ahead of your own, inevitably both you and your customer, your client, your guest are going to be very successful. And that's, you know, probably the thematic element in my life. I started out my career as a busboy, bartender. I went on to become a CPA, and I was a banker at one point in time. In all those roles, my job was to serve others. And I think I'm still in that role today because my job is to ensure, along with Paul and his colleagues, that our guests are having a terrific entertainment experience.
And really to play off that a little bit too, you know, some of the people that listen to our shows and our content, some are very established, some are still in college, some are kind of, you know, just absorbing any of the information. What's some of the keys to success, either for yourself or the Imagine brand as a whole? What are maybe 3 or 4 things that you'd really point out and emphasize?
Well, again, I think it's a matter of creating differentiation. It's distinguishing yourself in the marketplace. We live in a very competitive world these days, you know, between e-commerce and so forth, restaurants, you name it. And so always number one is a question of how do you differentiate, how do you demonstrate your value proposition to your customers or your guests. That's first and foremost. And then beyond that, I think it requires a lot of thought and planning, both on the financial side as well as on the experience side. So what is it you can do to make it more favorable? How can you better serve those who are interested in perhaps coming out to the movies in our case? But you know, think about our space today. We have more indirect competitors than we've ever had in the history of the industry. Think about Netflix, Hulu, pay-per-view, on-demand. You know, Disney's going to have a streaming channel or 2. The fact is this, that if we're not offering our guests a compelling value proposition, they can stay home and watch a 75-inch LCD screen with a wonderful sound system. So what do we have to do? Well, think about some of the small things we do. It's not just movie theater popcorn anymore. It's olive oil popcorn. It's cheese corn. It's caramel corn. It's mixing them all together. You know, it's a matter of doing something for guests that they can't necessarily enjoy at home. And I think that any business man or woman needs to give consideration to that. They need to think about what is it that I can do which will differentiate me and create a value proposition in the mind of my customer.
Excellent. Is there anything that either one of the Pauls would like to add to our piece? Or I know we touched a lot on how you got started in it. We touched a lot on obviously the guest experience, where you guys are planning maybe a little bit. What about the community? Like, what, as far as for Imagine goes locally, how can Imagine, or how can people, what events do you guys have here? What involvement did the community have, and how can they get involved with Imagine a little bit?
Sure. Every first Friday of the month, we have a senior classic movie that is posted on the Saline website. We also have it through a couple of different local retirement homes that they come in, and our doors are open for our guests to come join us for that. There's Value Day here with $5 movie tickets all day for loyalty members. Free popcorn that they can upgrade, get some refills for $1 here. So we offer those different value for our guests during the week. We also have Fathom events, which will show alternative content. We show operas, we'll show different anime, different classic movies through Turner Classic. So those are different alternative content for our guests to enjoy other than the regular run of movies.
And it really sounds like with you guys, it's just not a kind of what we would consider as a theater 20 years ago. It's
Right.
not like, hey, this is a showtime, this is what you're going to see, get in, get out. It is more of an experience.
Right, and to kind of echo Paul's statements he made about just the guest experience, what we try to do is have conversational experiences with our guests. So one opportunity that we have here that we're finding is a lot of guests will come in just on a Monday night, and they'll have a drink at our bar, and they'll watch a ball game. And we love that. That's something, if they want to come see a movie as well, we welcome that. But we want to have it where we're a pillar of the community, where guests can come in, feel at home, and just enjoy themselves in a multitude of ways. And if they just want to get out of the house and have a drink, come join us.
Talk about feeling at home. I feel pretty at home here right now. We're sitting by a fireplace. It's a little brisk outside, a little sunny. I can take that. You have a full bar behind you. I'm looking between both of you. I have my eyes on that, and then an eye, obviously, on your pizza oven back there too as well. So,
Yeah, it's designed to be inviting, and that's part of our hospitality. I'll also add on that to what Paul was mentioning, that we like to be a vibrant, contributing member of the community. And so, for example, you see that we're big supporters of the Foundation for Saline Area Schools, because I believe that education is a stepping stone to a better life. And so we're big proponents of education. We like to help the philanthropic organizations in every community we serve, because again, I actually believe it's good business. When folks know that you're not just taking from the community, but when you're also giving back, I think folks feel warm and they feel better toward you about doing business with you. And so, so that's really one of the important pillars of our existence as well, which is to ingratiate ourselves in the community, make sure that we're actually serving the community, both with the experience when folks are coming to the movies or coming to see alternative content, but they also know that we're giving back to their local community as well.
absolutely. And we appreciate that 100%. I mean, as the Saline Area Chamber of Commerce, obviously our geographic span reaches far outside of Saline, and I know a lot of people from Pittsfield and surrounding areas come to you guys, and we hear nothing but great things, and we appreciate your support, your membership, and especially for letting us take over your lobby today. So thank you guys, I appreciate it. And you've been listening to Chamber Chatter here, hosted by the Saline Area Chamber of Commerce. This is now our third episode, and we look forward to new ones coming up soon. If you do know anybody that may be a good guest on our show, or anybody at all that would actually want to come to Imagine it and see it film out here, please let us know. Visit these guys out here. They have a great facility, and talk to everybody soon.